Hey guys, this is Omer from MMOs.com to a quick weekly news recap of all major MMO news announced for the week ending June 3rd, 2019. This is episode number 202 of the recap, and the first bit of news this week is a big one, and it's regarding Lost Ark. While we still don't have any kind of release scheduled for an English version just yet, Mail.ru officially announced a demo for the Russian version of the game, which runs until June 6th. The demo version is basically an extremely limited beta, but it's the first release of Lost Ark in some form outside of its home market in South Korea, and it does tell us that the game is making progress for a wider release. The Russian demo version looks to be open to anyone as well, so if you want to give it a try, it shouldn't be too difficult. I do think we'll be getting an announcement at least for an English version sometime later this year, but it is good to see the game expanding outside of Korea, and hopefully it comes out in English next, but we'll have to wait for that. Next up, MapleStory 2 launched the biggest update yet, titled Awakening, which increased the game's level cap to 70 and introduces the new Striker class. Also including the Awakening update is new hard dungeons, a new Chaos raid, second job skills for all classes, new legendary gear sets, and much more. And since they raised the level cap, they're making it easier to hit the old level cap of 60 as well through a burning event, which is similar to burning events in MapleStory 1. So basically, every time you level up, instead of just gaining 1 level, you gain 3 levels, up until level 60 at least. While MapleStory 2 numbers are down significantly from its launch month, it's still averaged about 960 players or so online at a given time on Steam alone, and likely much more off Steam. We'll see if this can turn things around though for the game, but it is a big update, and we'll see where it goes. Up next, In Mass Entertainment announced the next update for Tera, titled Skywatch Call to Arms, will be launching on the PC on June 11th, 2019, which will add a new race/class combination to the game, the Papori Brawler. Anyone who gets the new Brawler to level 65 by July 9th gets a free premium Kit and Hit and Mittens weapon skin. And besides the new class and race combo, Skywatch Call to Arms introduces a new treasure map system, where players can collect pieces of treasure maps from high-end dungeons and can use them to find hidden treasures in the game world. And lastly, the update also adds the Gossamer Vault Hard instance. Moving right along, Eudemons Online, the old-school 2D isometric fantasy MMORPG from NetDragon, launched the Arrows of Fury expansion this last week, which introduced the new Elf Ranger class to the game. Besides the new class, Arrow of Fury also adds a new server called Scorpio, as well as new gear sets, quests, dungeons, and more. And despite Eudemons Online being an oldie, it still gets updated pretty regularly. This one launched back in 2006 in the West, making it about 13 years old today. This one is developed by the guys who made Conqueror Online as well, and both games do look kind of similar and play kind of similar too. I remember playing this one ages ago, but it's definitely something different, but it's a tough game to get into today. Anyway, remember last week we mentioned Dauntless hit 4 million players? Well, 1 week later it hit 6 million players, up 50% in about a week, which goes to show the power of Epic Games' distribution platform, as it has been pushed pretty heavily on there. I mean, on their homepage you can always see Dauntless being pushed to all their users. And besides that, they're also being pushed on consoles now as well. As I said before, if you want something like Monster Hunter Online that's free, give Dauntless a try. It's basically a free-to-play Monster Hunter Online, though arguably a bit worse. Next up, the voxel vertex space sandbox game Starbase from the Finnish studio Frozenbyte is set to launch into early access by the end of the year. And from the looks of it, the game aims to be some kind of sandbox survival game, but in space. But clearly will have MMO elements to it as well, as it's being billed itself as an MMO on Steam. Players can build their own spaceships and space stations in a world with fully destructible environments. Nowhere in the game's business model just yet, but there's been countless of these sandbox survival games, and besides Rust and Ark, few have managed to keep players around. So I do hope they go with the free-to-play model to attract more players. The sci-fi elements do sound interesting though, and it could help differentiate it, but we'll learn more about Starbase once it launches into early access later in the year. Nowhere on exactly when just yet. Next up, we have quite a bit of mobile and MMORPG news this week, starting with World of Kings, which officially launched worldwide in English this last week. And yes, I know what you're thinking, yet another autoplay mobile and MMORPG. I know, and you're not wrong. But after playing this one for a few hours already, it has some pretty impressive technology. Visually, the game looks beautiful and the music is top-notch. It's definitely one of the higher quality mobile and MMORPGs in terms of production value. It has 4 playable races and 9 playable classes with 3 job advantages each for a total of 27 classes. My biggest problem with World of Kings, though, it falls into the same problem that a lot of mobile and MMORPGs for me do. It's very much autoplay oriented, plus it's very daily mission grindy. But technically it is impressive visually and audio-wise. Anyway, check out my first link if you want to learn more about this one. Up next, Mu Origin 2 also launched this last week and is a sequel to Mu Origin. It's a second mobile spin-off of the Mu Online franchise and promised to deliver some of the key features of the PC game on mobile. Though I'm surprised they made a Mu Origin 2 because I was pretty sure the first Mu Origin game wasn't doing particularly well, at least here in the US, but I think it's doing much better internationally. Mu Legend on the PC hasn't been doing particularly well either, but these mobile Mu games have been doing really well in Asia. I know these games are pretty popular in China, so that's probably why they made it. But yeah, Mu Origin 2 is live worldwide in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Next up, the most generically named mobile MMORPG ever will be launching into closed beta testing on June 10th, titled Legend Fantasy. Not to be confused with Fantasy Legend, which is a completely different game. But anyway, closed beta for this one begins soon and will be launching fully sometime in July of 2019. The game boasts 3 unique classes, an open world, PvE dungeons, PvE battlefields, and that all actually sounds like the bare minimum of any MMORPG. I have a sneaking suspicion that Legend Fantasy will live up to its generic name with its generic gameplay, but it's funny that it is very similar to Fantasy Legend, and Legend Fantasy are actually 2 different games. Up next, some pretty big news from Tencent regarding the status of Arena of Valor in the West, which has been a bit of a disappointment for them. The game known as Honor of Kings in China has been a huge hit and quickly became the world's highest revenue-generating title thanks to its huge success in China and Southeast Asia, but the Western version, known as Arena of Valor, has been hugely disappointing, averaging just 250,000 daily active users between North America and Europe versus 55 million daily active users in China and 14 million in Southeast Asia. While 250,000 daily active users isn't terrible, it clearly didn't meet Tencent's expectations, which is why I think Tencent is working with Riot right now to work on League of Legends Mobile, which may have more Western appeal. And while Arena of Valor isn't shutting down or anything, I do suspect that the updates will slow down, but we'll see where this one goes. Next and last bit of news is a sad one. Remember how I said these sandbox survival games can't seem to survive? Well, Worlds Adrift will be shutting down on July 2019, before ever exiting early access even. Anyone who bought the game in the last 30 days or so is eligible for a refund, but everyone else is out of luck. Anyone look at the game's Steam charts though, could not have been surprised with this one and could have seen it coming. Worlds Adrift was only averaging about 150 or so players online at any given time over the last 30 days. And while I played and enjoyed Worlds Adrift, I'm not surprised to see it shut down. It just didn't have the player base it needed. Anyway, rip Worlds Adrift. Anyway guys, that's it for MMO news this week. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the podcast. For realsies this time. I'll see you tomorrow. Later guys.